Thank you for joining our webinar today. We've got an exciting session for you focused on Progility's experts sharing their top tips and tricks. This is episode 9. You can catch up on all of our previous episodes on our YouTube channel. The goal is to provide guidance and help you get more out of Microsoft Project and Planner. Let's get started. My name is Annie Levand, and I'm with a Microsoft PPM partner called Progility. We've been implementing Microsoft Project and portfolio management solutions and developing enterprise applications for over 20 years for large enterprises, including everything from engineering, construction, IT, and new product development. PMOs and CIOs typically come to us when they can't easily explain what's going on across other projects. They don't know what resources are working on what work, and they have a hard time getting consistent reports, metrics, and dashboards to make project-based decisions. We're known for having a 90% on-time, on-budget track record for successfully implementing these solutions for clients. We offer services and solutions in 3 core areas. Deployment and consulting services, Progility's core business. We provide professional services for successfully planning and implementing Microsoft Project Portfolio Management, including Microsoft Project Online, Project Server SE, Planner Premium, and integrating PPM with line of business applications to support delivering strategic portfolio management solutions and top-level management planning. Progility also offers a set of Hammerhead pre-built software solutions and accelerators based upon 20 years of experience, including a set of Hammerhead products that provide improved access to cloud PPM data, accelerate access to visual reports and dashboards using Power BI, connect data between your PPM system with Microsoft Teams, and extend connectivity into Active Directory to improve visibility, insight, and control over your work, people, and projects. New to our offerings is Hammerhead Power Pro, which is a pre-built solution crafted on the foundation of the Microsoft Power Platform and Planner Premium. This offering is designed to bring some of our lessons learned from this platform to your organization. Finally, Progility provides post-implementation support services, including expert care, designed to assist your PMO gaining on-demand expertise on the solution supported. We have a full online automated e-learning offering that can improve consistency and adoption for your users of your project management tools. You can learn more about all of our services and solutions on our website, progility.com. Our next event is something special. We're hosting our fall virtual project conference on October 16th from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear directly from 3 PMO leaders at VIA, Santa Clara County, and Tucson Airport Authority about how they're driving project success. It's free to attend and registration is now open. We'll show the link after the webinar and you'll be able to sign up today. All videos from this and previous series are available on our best practice playlist on YouTube listed on this page. Topics range from managing our digital transformation program using PPM technologies to integrating PPM with agile line of business applications. Feel free to subscribe and access the library at any time and share with your colleagues. With that, I'd like to introduce Amanda Coleman, Director of PPM here at Progility, who will be taking us through today's agenda. Amanda, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Annie. So I'll do just a brief introduction of myself. My name is Amanda. I live in Houston. I live with my husband, my 2 kids, and my chocolate lab named Kit Kat, which I have a picture of on the screen here. I've been working with project management industry and in the Microsoft space for over 13 years. I have my project management professional certification as well as am Microsoft certified in PPM. And I enjoy puzzles, hiking, reading, playing the piano, and a competitive game of bowling with my family. None of us are really that good. It's just really fun. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so for our webinar today, I'm going to be walking through the schedule planning activities in Planner Premium. So first, we're going to take a look at the initial project setup, the task planning, resource assignment planning, and then setting the baseline. And then we'll just take a look at the end about some of the key differences between task and assignment planning in Planner Premium and in Microsoft Project. About planning our schedule, these are very similar planning activities as we would do really in any platform. But first, we're going to take a look in our Planner Premium at setting up the initial project. So there are a few things at the project level that you'll need to get set up around the schedule mode that you would like to use, the calendar template that you would like to use, and this would define the working time for your project, and then their setting of the project start date. As we go through these different planning activities, we take them further and in depth. So first we start with project, then we're going to take a look at the task planning and the actual schedule. So creating your work breakdown structure or your organization of tasks, creating dependencies between those tasks, and then estimating the effort and duration it's going to take to complete them. Then looking at resource and assignment planning, how do we build our project team? How do we assign resources to tasks? And then how do we view those resource assignments within a particular project or across projects? And then finally, we set the baseline. Because at the end of our planning and at the end of our project, we always want to make sure we come back to really understand how close were our planning estimates compared to what happened in reality. So setting a baseline will allow you to look at that variance at project completion. So first, we're going to take a look at our schedule mode. So throughout the webinar, I'm going to do a series of slides that kind of talks through those different ideas, and then we'll jump into the tool so that you can see what that looks like in action. So the most commonly used schedule modes are fixed duration and fixed effort. So these are set at the project level. So you can only set one per project, and it's going to affect all of the tasks in your schedule. So the first one is fixed duration. Fixed duration should be used if you want to keep the duration estimates of your task the same. So you want to keep the task at 5-day duration, whether or not you have one resource on it, and you need that duration to stay the same. It's recommended if you as a project manager are mainly focusing on your dates, and you need those dates to stay more constant. Secondly, you have fixed effort. So effort focuses on the work or those resources that hands on the keyboard, boots on the ground type of activities. A lot of times fixed effort is used if you have a contract with dedicated hours that you're looking to make sure you're tracking against, because fixed effort will keep that effort estimate the same, regardless of if that task takes 1 day or 5 days, it's going to look at the effort. And this is primarily used, as I said, for a contract type where the PM is looking to track the effort that needs to complete the task, regardless of the duration changes or not. And then you'll set your calendar template. This will establish the working and non-working days for your schedule. You have a system admin who can maintain a list of your calendar templates, and there's one by default in your system. And it can be updated and maintained to account for holidays, company holidays, things that are very broadly going to be recognized across all of the projects that you have in your enterprise system. And then you set your project start date. So upon your project creation, it will default to the current date, to today's date, unless you choose another date. And this is the date where all of the tasks in your schedules will start as soon as you add them to your plan. This project start date, I recommend to only update this at the project start, because if you do shift this, it will shift all the tasks in your schedule, even those that may have been completed. So just be very mindful of this, and I would keep that project start date the same. So now we'll jump into our tool. So here is a Planner Premium environment where we have Hammerhead Power Pro installed. And I'm going to jump into this one particular project here. So I'll scroll down here. We have a section here all about project schedule setup, which accounts for those 3 key areas that I discussed in the previous slides. So here we have our schedule mode. Upon project creation, this field is editable, but once you save your project for the very first time, this field is logged. So just thinking through your schedule mode before you click that save button for the first time will save you a lot of delete and recreate. Here you have your calendar template. The default one in my system is called default work template, but again, you can have multiples of these. And to select another, you would just click your search icon here. And if you have other templates, you'd be able to find them here or under the advanced. And then you have your start date here. Making sure you set this correctly. So as we jump into our tasks, we have an idea of when those will all begin. Next, we're going to take our planning one step further, and now we're going to actually look at our schedule. And this is always my favorite part, is the planning and the tasks and the resource assignments. So first, we're going to create our work break. You would create a work breakdown structure, or a WBS. This is your hierarchy of tasks that help you as a project manager organize your work. Then we'll create our task dependencies using either the depends on or the depends after fields. And then you can estimate the work or the effort and duration for each of those tasks. So in this picture here, we have our work breakdown structure on the left, this organization of tasks here. We'll dive into that a little bit more best practices on our next slide around how to build a work breakdown structure. And then we have our task dependencies here under the depends on, which if you're familiar with Microsoft Project is your predecessors column. And then we have the effort and duration where you would just be able to type in your effort or your duration estimates. For your work breakdown structure, this is the hierarchy grouping of tasks to help you manage your plan. In some organizations, there are templates that may be available that already have a predefined set of tasks for you that you're just going to modify, maybe add tasks, remove some. But if you are creating one from scratch, then you'll need to add, of course, tasks individually. And so there are 3 types of tasks that you'll add to your work breakdown structure. The first one is called the summary task. And this will represent a phase, a stage, a deliverable, some type of overarching collection of tasks that that section of work is looking to achieve. The summary task is a roll-up of all the tasks and the milestones that may be underneath of it. So you can see in the picture here, it's bolded, you can collapse it, but all of this will roll up these tasks here. So 128 hours is an aggregation of these tasks below. Same with your duration here. Underneath the summary task, you have your tasks or your subtasks. These are your verb-driven tasks. These are what you are actually doing, the work of the project's actually happening in order to get the project completed. So your tasks should always be verb-driven. Typically, they're not too long in name. I'd say 3 to 5, 3 to 6 words, something very short, sweet, and direct about what that task is actually trying to achieve. And resources are going to be assigned to these tasks because, again, this is the work of the project. So you will have effort and you will have resources assigned here. And then lastly, we have milestones. Milestones represent the completion of that corresponding phase, stage, or deliverable. They have a 0-day duration because it's just a check of completion. So these are always represented by a 0-day duration. And because it's 0 days and there's no effort involved, there's no resources actually assigned to these tasks. Since no work's being done, it's just to mark the completion. And then this pattern can be repeated and should be repeated throughout the rest of your project schedule. We have another summary here for analysis of requirements. We have our subtasks and then another milestone to mark completion of that phase. So diving back into our plan here, I'm going to navigate to my tasks tab at the top. And this is where I'm going to build, modify, and maintain my schedule. So I pre-built some tasks here, just so nobody will have to watch me type. And so I have used that same structure here to create my work breakdown structure. So we have scope, we have our subtasks, they have work or effort defined, they have a duration, and then we have a milestone to complete that phase of work with our 0-day. You can repeat that here for the analysis of requirement summary, a list of our tasks all the way to the end, and then a milestone to mark completion. And this is continued throughout the entire plan. And this also will enable reporting at an enterprise level if you needed to, where you can do reporting, for example, on all milestones or 0-day duration tasks. So first, you would create your work breakdown structure. Just list out the tasks, get them organized in a way that makes sense to you so that you can properly manage the project. And then you will create your task dependencies. So My personal preference is to use the depends on equivalent to that predecessor column, because it allows you to see that this task has a relationship with task line number 2, which is this task here. And so determine project scope must finish before my secure project sponsorship task can begin. In this project, I created a pretty linear, pretty waterfall schedule here, so it really just flows from top to bottom. But of course, you can have multiple dependencies per task. And I do recommend that each of your tasks, your not summary tasks, does have a dependency on it. That way it will allow you, if updates need to be made to your schedule, where you can update a task up here, and that will ripple affect the rest of your schedule. One of the checks, if I'm ever handed a schedule from somebody else that I need to take over, one of the first checks I always make is to see if I have any tasks that do not have a dependency on them. And then I really question, there's no dependency, why is this task in my plan? So this is your depends on. There is a other field, that's the flip side, equivalent of your successors column, that is called your dependents or your after. Go ahead and add that in for a minute. So here you can see what tasks depend on the current task that I have selected. So for this task, my scope complete, I have 2 tasks, line number 7 and line number 27, that depend on this task being completed first. When I'm planning, I usually focus on depends on, and then I use the dependents as a check, again, just to make sure that each task has it, as I do a forward pass of my schedule, meaning from top to bottom, and then I usually do a second one that goes from the bottom to the top. So the next step then would be to create all those task dependencies. And then you can estimate your effort and your duration. And you can do that just by typing into these cells here. So secure project sponsorship, we're going to update that to be 24 hours of work. Define preliminary resources, 8 hours. Here's really where you can modify what those estimates are. Once your tasks have been defined, they've been linked together, you've created all of those estimates, now it is time to do your resource planning and the assignment planning. So the first step will be to build your team. In Planner Premium, you can navigate to one of your tasks, and in the Assign To column, you'll click a plus button, and you can add a resource or a user to that task. The first time that you do that in a single project schedule, you're going to be prompted with this box on the slide, where you can either add a group to the plan, or you can just assign that user to a particular task, but it won't create an associated group or grant permissions. For option number 1, where you add a group, this would be a great option for you if you would like a lot of team collaboration. Consideration here is if your IT group will allow users to create M365 groups. Some organizations have that locked down, but if you do have the ability to create it, then you can create an associated M365 group that is going to contain yourself as a project manager and the related team members in your plan. This method would also grant the members of the group owner permissions to that project schedule. So they would be able to modify some of those tasks in there. It really fosters that collaboration. For option number 2, for just assign, this option might be used if, as a project manager, you'd like to maintain that ownership and control of the schedule. So depending on how your system is set up, the team members may or may not be able to see your plan. Hopefully they will, but if the permissions are set up where they can't unless they own it, then they would not. But this just assign allows you to use the system where the users can really just be resources. You're just assigning them to their plan, but there's really no action needed for them in the tool itself. And then you will look to assign those resources to the corresponding tasks, again, using that assign to column. So you can assign one or more resources to them. The tool will allow you to do that. And again, just to reiterate from our work breakdown structure, this should only be assigned to those subtasks, those verb-driven tasks where you provided an estimated effort or duration. Once you've assigned those resources to tasks, then you can view the resource assignments. There is an area within your schedule. It's called the assignments view, and this will allow you to view your assignments grouped by resource or by task. If you're familiar with project, it's very similar to the usage views, where you can look at your schedule from a different angle. So in this particular view, we have it grouped by resource. So I'm looking at my tasks in particular. So it'll show me a listing of all of my tasks along with my assignment start date, my assignment finish date, or the effort. And then in the right-hand side is a time-phased assignment effort grid. You have the ability to change the timescale of that grid. You can view it daily, weekly, monthly, depending on your preference. In general, I see this really depends on the length of your schedule. If you have a 3-month plan, you may look at may want to see this by week, or if you have a 5-year plan, you might want to look at this by month or by quarter. And really the beauty is, as the user, you have the option to choose how you want to slice this information. And then at the top, you can always set your date range so you can see how many weeks into the future do you want to see at one time. This view provides a very good way to, when you're planning, to check your tasks. You can even make some adjustments here, which we'll talk through when I pull up the system itself. And as you will look to forecast your resources, this gives you good visibility into an individual project. You can also view resource assignments across a portfolio of projects in Power BI. So this is just a snippet of 2 of the Power Pro reports. We have a resource remaining work report that shows you a listing of time-based data, very similar to what the assignments view shows you, only across all the projects and all resources. So this particular one is grouped by resources, and then it shows you a time-phased estimated effort per resource, per project, per task. And then there is a remaining availability heat map that also takes into account a resource's capacity, factors in their assignments from, again, across all those assignments, and then it calculates the availability number based on that. So jumping back into our plan, the assigned to column here is where I have assigned the resources. If I do click on this plus button here, I can see, since I already have some resources assigned to this particular plan, I can associate another resource with it. I can swap out my resources with it. Take my resources away. Here's where I can plan, make, or adjust my resource assignments. Since my plan is fixed duration, whenever I make resource modifications, whether it's adding or removing, it's going to keep this fixed, since that's the mode I selected, and my effort is going to become my variable. So here I have one resource assigned 5 days for 40 hours of work. Go ahead and assign Amanda to that. That 5 days is going to stay constant. Again, if dates and duration is what's key for you to track, fixed duration will be your friend. But it increased the effort to 80 hours of work. Now, I can come back and modify this if I would like to, but this will be the default behavior of the scheduling engine. So as part of the planning process, you'll assign one or multiple resources to your tasks. Again, there will be no resources on summary. In fact, you can see it's even locked here. You couldn't if you wanted to. And then milestones are your 0 day with no effort. And so you can resource load your entire schedule. So right now I am in the grid view of my plan. This is where you can primarily see your work breakdown structure. How you else you would like to view, there are several other scheduling options here. One is a board view. So if you manage more of an agile type project, you can manage your tasks in this way, where you can move your tasks between different buckets. Again, you have not started all the way through done, and then you have the ability to create your own bucket. And you have the ability here also to group those tasks by different metrics. So by assigned to, by progress, again, kind of taking that same project data and turning it on its head and again and again. And then you have a timeline view. This will show your visual representation for your Gantt chart. Any tasks that are partially completed or completed will show a dark blue shading through it. And you also can update your dependencies in this view if you would like to versus the grid view just by dragging and dropping this between your different tasks. You can zoom in or out here depending on, again, the time scale you'd like to see. And here we can use our charts. This gives you more of an analytical look at your plan, used more for execution, but this will allow you to see what tasks are in progress, which tasks are late or completed, so you can really dive into those tasks in particular, figure out what's going on. You can look at your estimated effort per person at an entire project level, along with who has late tasks and completed, who has work left to do and completed. It just gives you a little bit of that critical eye. For people, this view is very helpful when you have the team members that are collaborating in this plan with you. Because if I am Amanda, which I am, then I can come into this plan and I can see only the tasks that are associated with me. I can update them here. I can just check them off if they've been completed, depending on the level of tracking that you're planning to do. But here I can see all of my tasks all in one place. You can have project goals. If your project is looking to achieve overarching goals, you can add those here and even connect tasks to it that you can prioritize depending on the needs of the project. But really, the view that we're most excited about is our assignments view. Back into our plan here. There we go. So we have our assignments view here. So depending on the size of your monitor, you might have a bigger or smaller scroll bar here. This one's pretty small. So the view I currently have on is grouping it by resources. So on the right-hand side is where you have the ability to modify exactly the data that you're seeing. So I have it currently grouped by resource. I can go ahead and select that to group by task, and it'll just pivot. It'll give me the task name along with the one or multiple resources assigned to it. Here's where I can choose my timescale. I want to do daily, weekly, or monthly, yearly. Again, the length of the project usually determines what level is helpful here for you to see. I'm going to go ahead and choose weekly because my project is only a couple of months long. And then you can choose your timescale at the top. So when I come into this view, what am I looking for? So what I would like to see in the task usage view is I can make some adjustments here if I look at tasks that have multiple resources. Because what Planner Premium will do by default is it will assign each of those resources the same amount of estimated effort. So on this particular task for develop functional specifications, Amanda and Charles are both on it, and they're both given 40 hours of work. I do have the ability to modify that in the system. I'll go ahead and navigate to that week by typing directly in the right-hand side for the time scale. So here's where I can say that Amanda is my top resource. She's going to do 40 hours this week. She's going to do 16 hours the second week. And you can see as I make modifications here, it's updating it in that effort column. So if you have any Power BI reports pulling from it, it will also modify there. And then for this task here, I can give a little bit more effort here, we can do it. But here's, you have a little bit more hands-on ability into modifying those resource assignments to reflect reality. So when I look at task usage here, that's primarily how you can really tweak your system. When I'm looking by resource, I can look at a couple of things where I'm trying to analyze, is a resource over allocated on this project in a particular week? So if I look at Amanda, it aggregates the number of hours that are expected to be worked in that equivalent idea of a summary task here. So I can see the week of October 19th, there's about 33 hours, then 19 hours, then there's no resource assignments going into November. But this is where you can do a check as you're planning to your project to make sure you don't have any weeks where there is an extraordinary amount of hours and you don't have assigned to one or multiple people that you won't have the capacity in order to complete. Come back to my task usage here for a minute. So one recommendation that would be a consideration for your organization is how many resources you might assign to a single task. If we do create a one-to-one here where I have one task and I always have one assignment to it, then this effort always belongs to that particular resource. And when you're planning, it's very clear in order to see how much work is being planned for a resource on a task. I'm going to navigate back to my grid view here. And this may come into play when you're actually working against your plan. So if I click on my details panel here, I have one resource assigned, that's Charles. And if I scroll down here, I can see the effort. I can see it's 40 total hours, that he hasn't completed any yet, there's 40 remaining, tells me everything about the task. If I navigate down to a task here that has 3 resources on it, and I click, this summarizes that effort to a task level. It rolls it up here. So I don't have that visibility into the total hours for the task for Amanda versus Todd versus Jeff, unless we do go into that reporting. So one way that could potentially make it easier as a project manager is to assign a single resource to a task to allow you to always say 16 hours in this window for this particular resource. So just a consideration for you as you're building out your project schedules. To view your resource assignments across projects, Power BI is going to be the tool for you to help you do that. So I'll come into Power BI here. I clicked on my resource report link in the navigation here. We put that in here with the web resource. And in this report, there are several pages of information exactly pulling out those assignments from all of the schedules. For right now, I'm going to start with the focus using this as time-phased assignments view. So this view here shows me grouped by resources, and then across the columns are the months, the amount of estimated hours for a resource. So I have the ability to expand here. So for this resource, I'm working on 4 projects. Within each of those, they have a certain number of work. So it does look like for the month of October, I'm going to be pretty busy. But as I get into December, it looks like it lightens up a little bit. And if I need to drill down even further, I'd like to see the tasks. I have the ability to expand that even further. So I can see in this Acme project, what in October is really taking this resource's time? Well, it's going to be this conduct training usability study. I've had many clients that use these reports to facilitate some type of weekly meeting with the team where they're looking at it comprehensively across. It's a resource management meeting typically, and it looks specifically at this report and they're using it to facilitate to make some resource adjustments. So it's a live, 1 hour type of meeting. They look here, they identify allocations, and then the PMs update their plans accordingly. This report does focus on the current assignments. So it looks at, similar to that assignment view in an actual plan itself, it does show you that time phased for demand of the resource. The flip side of demand is going to be their availability. So here we have an availability heat map where we have designated each one of these resources as having a target utilization. So how much of their time are we going to capture in this system? We're going to capture 100% of their time, 80%. Maybe they have other responsibilities, so we're not looking to track as much of their time here. We just assume, for example, that maybe 20% of their time are doing other activities. So this report takes into consideration that resources capacity compared against all of the assignments across the plans in this system to calculate an over or underutilization. So in October, when we were looking at time phased, I got the sense it was going to be busy. I had a lot of projects, a lot of a lot of assignments going on. But coming in here, I can clearly see that I am exactly 132 hours over allocated. So it's going to be a busy month, or I'm going to need to move some of that work to future months here. Or I can reassign it to a different person. Maybe I can assign it to Mike. I can move some of that work there. And this is where some of that resource loading and balancing conversations in the organization will need to come into play. And lastly, now that we have our project schedule defined, we've had it estimated, and we have our resources, now we want to set our schedule baseline. This is a very important snapshot of your plan when you've completed planning, but before you've actually started work on the project. This will give you a snapshot of the estimated values prior to execution. And this can be used as you work through the project and at the end of the project to see how far off were those estimates from what actually ended up occurring. So you can set a baseline. You can set one baseline per plan, and it will set both project and task level fields baseline values. So I'll navigate back to my plan here. And the baseline can be set or found by clicking on this baseline ribbon here. So I do have a baseline that I set. Ready? I'm going to go ahead and delete that baseline. So I'll go ahead and create a baseline here. So all you have to do is click set baseline, and it will tell you a high level about your plan. So currently my plan's on track, which is great because we just started, because everything that I just estimated is still scheduled to occur in that same time frame. Down here under Spotlight, it gives you some kind of helpful hints about your plan. So even though it shows it on track, I have 2 tasks that need attention. So I can click directly on that here for it to filter my plan. So I can really drill into those late tasks. Here's where I can be like, oh, that task is completed. Go ahead and make my updates to it here. I can also see I have some critical path tasks that need attention. So again, I can click on that right here and I can see what about it needs to be brought attention to. So you can use this compare all tasks feature in order to see the baseline start values, baseline finish values, and then the finish variance on if you are on track or you are behind schedule on a task by task basis. So in order to make me have some plan issues, I'm going to update this particular task to 50 days. It's a pretty dramatic delay, about 45 days, as we can see here. So as soon as I did that, then it did modify my finish variance. So the finish variance will compare the baseline finish, or your originally planned finish, with the current finish date. And so the difference between those two is that we are behind schedule by 45 days. And so you can look at that on a task-by-task basis all the way throughout the plan. And depending on your dependencies, you may have some tasks that are still on track and some not, depending on your critical path. Then I can go ahead and hide that baseline there if I'm kind of just getting back to my day-to-day execution of the plan. If I click back on baseline here, then I can, again, kind of see some of those details about what might be going on here. And once your baseline is set, then you have completed planning, and then your project can move into the execution phase. So the different steps that we walked through here, we walked through the initial project setup. Again, schedule mode, template, start date, make sure your project, that plan level details are set up correctly before even diving into your schedule. Move into your task planning where you can create a breakdown structure, task dependencies, and create your estimates. And then you can move into your resource and assignment planning, which are actionable, build team, assign resources, and also just viewing if you want to see, again, assignments for a particular plan or across. And then finally, you set the baseline. And now you are off to the races to begin the fun part, which is the project work. It's all fun. So what are some of the key differences between Planner Premium and Microsoft Project? So I know there may be some additionals, but these were the ones I wanted to highlight here. So one of the key differences is the learning curve and the usability. So Planner Premium is very user-friendly, minimal training required. You can really just jump in. You get a lot of information right there. The columns make sense. It's very easy to just tool to just pick up and begin to maintain. And then we have Microsoft Project, a little bit of a steeper learning curve. Microsoft Project itself has a lot of columns in it. It's built for more complex projects and complex resource scheduling. And with that comes the need to understand all the intricacies that are Microsoft Project. The second one is collaboration with team members. Planner Premium offers that real-time collaboration. Again, one of those options when you assign a team member is to add them to the group. And so they can collaborate on that plan right along with you. For Microsoft Project, collaboration is typically a little bit more structured. This is typically structured so the project manager owns the plan and the team members provide input through either a meeting or through a task page approval, or it's sitting in a room together and getting those updates in. The assignment level actual work and remaining work tracking. This can be achieved in Planner Premium by using that one-to-one method of assigning a task with a resource. And then in Microsoft Project Server, you do have that ability to track it at assignment level. To view your resource assignments across all projects, Power BI, fantastic data reporting tool, can be used in both instances here. For Planner Premium, I showed you those couple of reports and how you can pull that and you can extract that data out. And then in Microsoft Project, if you're on Project Server, then there are some enterprise views built in there. And you also can pull that into Power BI. And then for task level cost tracking, in Planner Premium, there's not currently any task level cost tracking budgeting available. And then in Microsoft Project, you do have the ability to add in a cost at that task or even assignment level for your estimation and financial reporting. And so with that, that's concluded the webinar. So I'll go ahead and open it up if there are any questions.
Oh, well, thanks for that great presentation, Amanda. Hopefully folks found this useful. We'll now open the floor to questions and answers. Remember to enter your questions and answers at the top of your team screen. Let's see if there's any questions in the queue. Not seeing any right now, but we'll give it a couple moments. And if there are no questions, we'll move on. Well, if there are no questions, I guess we'll continue on. And if you have any, feel free to reach out to us. So how do you get started? As many of you may have heard, Microsoft recently announced that Project Online will be retiring in September 2026. The important thing is to know, don't worry, we've got your back. Our team has already developed a clear migration approach to help you move off of Project Online at your pace. We can guide you through your options, whether that's Microsoft Project Server SE or Planner Premium, so you can find the right fit for your organization. If you'd like to talk through what this means for you and your team, reach out to us. We can set up a call to review your current environment, send over an assessment to provide a tailored migration approach and licensing recommendations to make this transition as smooth as possible. Our contact info is included here, along with a link to our site where you'll find more details on services and solutions that can accelerate your rollout of Microsoft's Project, Planner, or work management products. Let's connect and get you on the right path forward. Thank you again for joining the webinar today. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you online for our next session. Have a great day.